Today we are kind of talking about the difference between wanting to be in a relationship
Yep.
versus wanting a companion or companionship.
Yeah. So this is inspired by an Instagram post. There was a shaman on Instagram, said to Jay,
Will come to me and say, I want to find a
Shaman
relationship,
Derek.
Shaman Dirk. Why haven't I met the one I love?
Let's just play the audio.
Yeah.
first.
Most human beings will come to me and say, I want to find a relationship, Shaman Dirk. Why haven't I met the one I love? And I always say to them, no, you don't. You want a companion. You don't want a relationship. They go, what do you mean? I said, a relationship means that you're willing to expose and to be transparent and to open yourself up for evolution. You're not in a relationship just because you want to fill that lonely spot. You're in a relationship for someone to show up who's able to see you clearly and be able to show you the places where you're not evolving.
Yeah.
Can we start with that?
Yeah.
Exposing places that you need to grow.
Yeah.
It's not about filling that empty spot. I feel like a lot of us have come to know relationships that way and view relationships that way.
Oh, yeah.
In the same way we talked about differentiating or distinguishing a first meetup from a first date,
Yes.
there needs to be some distinguishing between companionship and relationship.
So let's set some context. When we say distinguishing between a first meetup and a first date, with the proliferation of online apps and all the downloadable access you now have to an individual, whether it's through swipe culture or through traditional modes like eHarmony or OkCupid, there's become a big difference, a big gap between a date and a meetup. Why? Because years ago, 30, 40 years ago, prior to the advent of online dating, you could meet somebody and oftentimes you'd meet them in person at a bar, maybe outside jogging,
Right.
or some kind of IRL activity
Mhm.
where you'd get to know them. And in that getting to know them, whether it's for 15 minutes or a half an hour, you just chatting, you could basically assess whether someone was safe enough, right? Someone who was sane enough, sane enough,
Mhm.
right? Maybe even sanitary enough.
Right, to do that one-on-one
You
with.
to do that one-on-one with. And we're
Yeah.
talking about like a real date. You pick them up in a car for a man to a woman and you drive them somewhere. You guys can meet somewhere, take a cab and have some nice intimate dinner, maybe go out and do something like a fun activity like ice skating, something different. You wouldn't mind being alone with that person with your guard down. Well, with online dating, we know with catfishing, which is a prevalent issue with online dating. Scamming. Another thing is people, and I just saw this from an article written in the New York Times in 2022 after 10 years of Tinder, people putting up fake pics, people putting up pics from 5-10 years ago. People,
Right.
when you put your best, picture up there and you haven't looked your best in 10 years.
Using somebody else's pictures and identity.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, it's like, well, wait a minute. Do I want to be on a 3-hour, 4-hour date? I don't care if it's in the middle of the day or even at night. Definitely not at night, but even in the middle of the day when there's sunlight and people walking around. I don't know you because you've already shown me that you have been disreputable and a liar, essentially, about who you are. You've misrepresented yourself. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, why do I want to be with you? So the thing we recommend, and Jay has really talked about this as the lead single dude on the podcast, is instead of dating, meet up. Coffee, a donut
Something
shop,
light.
ice cream.
Something chill. I
Yeah.
know last year y'all had opposition to the Cheesecake Factory and things like that, or going for a walk, but please just keep it light. It's really just to check the vibes and see if y'all can relate to each other, what y'all have in common, and if y'all really want to invest the time into dating.
And that's the whole context of when we're now drawing the parallel between companionship and relationship. Because what we're saying here is, yes, you could talk about dating versus meeting up, but meeting up is lighthearted. It's just it's easy, and you do meetups multiple times. Some of y'all just skip the meetups and get right to the meetup to the booty call. So we get it, right? But that's really light. A date has gravitas to it. It has weight to it. It has importance to it. It has prep to it. It has, let me tell my friends where I'm going and why to it.
It has some expectations to it, as much sometimes as you want to shirk it, but it has some expectations.
Exactly. So the same thing now we're saying here with companionship. Companionship is light compared to relationship. I think so. Let's talk about companionship first in our definition and our understanding of companionship. I think the best way I've seen it happen is, you see people who've been married, 50 years, they're elderly now, one of the spouses dies, and then next thing you know, grandma, auntie so-and-so got a companion.
Mm-hmm.
They got
a little new friend.
Yeah, new friend. Somebody they travel with, someone who goes down to the family reunion with them,
right.
Someone who shows up her best friend's, birthday party, and they drive home together, or he drops her off. They got someone to do life with, even though it's not the same person they did life with 50 years prior, because that person obviously is no longer here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is that your definition too as well?
For companionship?
Yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I think even just looking at my own life recently over the past couple of years, I've had a lot of companions, but I really but truly believe that my marriage, like that's really the type of relationship to me. As a single man, when women are talking about where are we going or I want to be in a relationship, I feel like a lot of times they're telling me I just really want a companion, somebody to do this thing with. Because honestly, when I've tried to view them and assess them as a relationship partner, I see all the places where they don't want to grow and evolve. And it's like they're not really talking about doing anything other than spending time together. But here's the thing, though. I do feel like that's a big sign on if you really fuck with somebody or not, how much time you want to spend with them.
I agree. And I think there's nothing wrong with companionship. I think Sham and Derek, their name, is really carving out a piece of reality that we've been ignoring about dating and relationships for quite some time.
For sure.
Everyone's been hitting the apps. Everyone's been hitting the online dating forums because I want to be in a relationship. I'm tired of being alone. Loneliness, the specter of loneliness is haunting me every night. It's left the confines of my home. It's with me at work, at the gym, or whatever I'm doing. I'm always lonely. I took a trip to Tulum, thought I'd feel fine. I looked over across the bar. That specter's there with a Mai Tai talking about, yeah, you thought you were going to go to Tulum. And
you thought you were good. Like, nah.
Exactly. So, I think Shaman Derek is really highlighting that companionship is there, and there's nothing wrong with wanting companionship. It's the problem emerges when you want companionship, but you're dressing it up in a relationship.
Right, when you're conflating the two.
So I think companionship we have to normalize. There's nothing wrong with meeting up with somebody, telling them that you want to hang out with them, that you enjoy being with them, going with them to their friend's wedding. Then, a couple months later, they're coming with you to your friend's wedding, going to each other's Thanksgiving or Christmas or family outings and holidays. It's okay to keep it at that level of light.
Meaning, y'all are doing these activities, but there's no expectation of loyalty or things like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, there's no expectations of loyalty. Now, for some people, for safety reasons, you may say, hey, listen, look, I really appreciate if we can just keep this, at least just me and you. Now, some people say, it's okay if it's not me and you, just let me know. Everyone's going to have their different definition of companionship, but I believe what defines companionship and makes it so distinct from relationship is the fact that you are not pressuring that person to be a better person. You're not pushing them through the evolution process. You're not pushing them through the gauntlet of life or the gauntlet of love where you have to learn to adapt and be adaptable because this other person's needs are changing and even your own needs are changing.
Well, what if you're not pushing them through, but you're ushering them or helping guide them through? Because I feel like to what you're talking about with the relationship, or even as Shaman Derek talked about, the distinguishing factor is that evolution has to be part of this process.
Yes.
And so what if your companion sees that, you're an entrepreneur, you're just starting out, but they've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. And they see areas that you need to grow, but it's not like, I'm going to give you some game, but it's not like I'm giving you the game so that it benefits our union. I'm just giving you game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that falls within the realm of professional advice, and that's perfectly okay. I think that's part of, hey, look.
But that's not evolution that we
No. Okay. I think evolution is really about the sacrificing of your soul, your needs, and even sometimes your body for a larger goal that we have decided to achieve together.
Like we talked about in the ebook, one of the chapters that we talk about in, I believe it is the Dating to Forever, which is our, 5 essential keys to learning how to build a long-lasting relationship. We talk about mixing romance and finance. And one of the things we talk about is if your spending habits are causing a rift in the relationship, part of the evolution is learning how to budget properly.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah.
I'm a sneakerhead and I've been buying these sneakers like clockwork. But right now we're trying to save for a trip overseas, our first trip together overseas, and also look at getting a condo. You may need to learn how to curtail the sneaker buying. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying sneakers, but the issue is you don't have a habit of telling yourself no.
Right.
You don't have the discipline of telling yourself no so that you can get something in the long term. We've heard our good friend Chris Berg say, right? You can rarely do something in the long term that will satisfy something in the short term. Those kinds of decisions are usually at odds with each other.
Fundamentally. Yeah.
Sometimes there's a short-term and a long-term decision that satisfies both, but normally it doesn't. And you're going to have to make that sacrifice. What if you've got with somebody and you're moving from companionship to relationship and you're realizing this person doesn't have a habit or the discipline of thinking long-term and then willing to sacrifice the short-term in order to achieve the long-term?
And I mean, I even using that scenario, I feel like that's kind of what the relationship would be. You being like, they don't have what I need, but because I want to grow with this person, I'm willing to do the work to help them get to where they need to be and where I need to be. As opposed to with companionship, it's like, well, look, man, you're not really satisfying what I need. And so that's basically what it is. What he talked about is it's not about filling that lonely spot. So if the majority of your connections or relationships are centered around, activities that you can do that because you don't want to do them by yourself, it's probably more of a companionship you want.
Yeah. If it's just about the convenience of the interaction, then it's most likely about companionship. Nothing wrong with companionship. Nothing wrong with building these light bonds because you feel, hey, I don't have the stamina to go through the dating market. In fact, the dating market has more stamina in running over me, and trampling me. What I need is somebody I know that can be dependable to show up to the wedding that my friend is having, show up for special holiday events, show up for activities that matter to me. Maybe I like to do apple picking in the fall, hiking in the summer.
My nephew's baseball game, all of that type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Someone I don't mind buying gifts and they don't mind buying gifts to me, is that we're going to keep it light. And I've seen this. I've seen people date people for 5, 4, 5, 10 years, and it's really just a companion. They break up out of that relationship. One person gets a stronger sense of themselves, and they meet somebody and they're married. Because this was about the person that I wanted to evolve with and wouldn't mind the evolution, right? The challenges that come with evolving myself or my own evolution as well as theirs and the relationship.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking about my own life and I'm like, companionship has always it's been easier for me to do because I guess because I spend a lot of time by myself, I always do have spots for somebody to come and fill. But it's been very rare that I've been like, I can see myself or want to grow with this person. Now, there have been people who have challenged me and been like, yo, we need to be, as much time as we spend together, we need to be thinking about a relationship, evolving with each other. But that just hasn't come easy for me.
Yeah, I know. Me and you've talked about that because I've talked about you, especially after your marriage, and I know a lot, obviously, about your private life, meaning your private personal life, dating life. And I said, hey, you mentioned this person, you mentioned that person, you've dated this person, you've had a companion with that person. How come none of these people are people that seem to be, on a good slide towards relationship? And you've mentioned one of the key aspects for you that you're looking for in a relationship that your ex-wife had was this idea of abounding love. This idea that, this person is so full of the love of God and the love they have for people that it's just emanating out of them. It overflows, it cascades into all of their relationships, mainly their relationship with you, that, interpersonal relationship, but also the relationship you see with their coworkers, with their boss, with their business partners,
family, everybody. Yeah. And I mean, now that I'm thinking about it and listening to you say it, I remember I've said that on a number of occasions. And it's not to say that maybe other people don't have it. It just hasn't been as evident as I saw in her.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times what I see is those people have wanted me as a companion. They're asking for a relationship because that's just what...
That's the term they know.
Right, that's the term.
They don't know how to make the difference that Shaman Derek didn't say. It's companionship.
Right.
But ultimately, you see the signs of what it is.
Yeah.
It's not really relationship.
Right.
Because if I go, as an old real estate friend of mine used to say, full kimono. Full kimono was used in New York City real estate when there's a deal going on and everybody wants to see, let me see the balance sheet, the income statement, let me see the cash flow, and then also let me see the other statements that aren't necessarily part of that three-statement analysis, right? That three-statement financial analysis, which is what's going on with leadership, what's going on in the hierarchy, what's going on in the background. You try to vet all that because there's stuff that's on paper, but there's a lot of things that run a company that are off paper. Look up what happened with TKO. Now it used to be called Endeavor with WWE. Mm-hmm. They buy WWE, and then all these allegations from Vince McMahon. They thought they knew all they needed to know about
the 15 million had already been spent.
Yeah, then you pull back the curtain, and then here comes all these other issues.
Pooping on somebody's heads. Vince, what's going on with you, big bro?
I remember me and you used to talk when we first became friends. We would talk about how much we thought Vince McMahon was like a sidebar, like an idol to us, like just a marketing genius. Me and you had him on this pedestal of just being this brilliant, over-the-top marketer. He was just like circus meets HBO. Like this guy could really, he had the circus feel, but he had the polish of marketing that really mattered to cable television and its emergence through the late 80s and going to the 90s into the aughts. And then to see this, it's just like crazy.
I gotta get this.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay, yeah, I heard it too, but it's all good. And so, you know, you're like, wow. But anyway, that's the whole point of that, is that now TKO is dealing with the aftermath of all these Vince McMahon allegations. I'm sure there's more, especially these NDAs can be broken. And then people start telling, and there's many platforms that'll take it. Netflix is in the middle of a documentary with him. So there's just a lot of major issues going on because they couldn't get to the truth of the matter. Bringing it back to what we're talking about with you. Once I pull back the curtain on my heart, you see my imperfections, you see what I've wrestled with, you see my childhood traumas, you've seen everything I've dealt with or dealing with consequently because of stuff that happened to me. Is there going to be love there, or is it like, listen, or are you going to tell me, that's nice, can you just still come to Barbara's wedding?
Right, yeah.
On Saturday?
No, legit.
In the tux that I asked you to get?
Legit. And I mean, I have definitely felt that. And this is what I mean, like that is part of the lack of, I guess, motivational love, or love that moves you to go outside your comfort zone. My ex-wife had that in spades. Again, it's not to say that, you know, the women that I've come across since then don't have it. I just don't know if they were really trying to show that to me, because that's not what I felt. I think some of them may have learned to love me in a very special way to them, but it didn't really feel like what I felt like with my ex-wife. And the crazy part about that is her love towards me is what drew me to her. It wasn't about the looks. The looks wasn't the X factor. It wasn't about, you know, the promise of sex or any of that. It was the way that I saw her treat people, the way that I saw her treat me. She just had a lot of love in her heart. Like, and I don't even really know how to quantify that so that somebody could be like, well, I'm 80% love and 20%, like, I don't know how someone could do that, but I just remember feeling that so very vividly, so very strongly. And it was like, that's what moved me to want to be in relationship and grow and evolve with her.
And she definitely had that. And she continues to have that to this day. That's the great part about her. I also believe that she was invested in a larger vision for her love. Not just even her love and larger vision of marriage and kids, which obviously she was. But I believe she had the larger vision of love. You always said it was tied to this relationship that she had with God. And it was a spillover effect. I wonder sometimes when we talk about relationships, just to kind of go from companionships now to relationships, how many of us, myself included, have really thought about what does it really mean to have sacrificial love for another person for a larger vision? What does it mean to give up so much of yourself? I mean, pour yourself out like a drink offering for someone else, for something else. And that's something being the larger vision for being, yes, the trip to Tulum, but also yes to the mortgage, and yes to your mother moving in here because your father died suddenly and she's alone. Yes to the fact that your aunt and them may need a little loan because they're behind on the mortgage and they may get kicked out. Yes to the fact that we said we were going to live here in the Midwest, but you got this great job in LA. So let's go to LA, even though I don't want to go to LA, but I want to be with you. So I'll go to LA for you. A lot of sacrificing. Now, I'm talking about in the context of me. So before anyone makes it about, oh, men do this, women do this, I'm thinking in the context of me as a man who may have to make those decisions on behalf of a woman, even moving to LA, especially if my career is market agnostic, meaning, right, you have the podcast, you have a digital footprint online, you're a digital marketer. That's part of what you do. You can do that anywhere in the world. That's what actually what digital marketers talk about. Being free to do things like that. So why would you hold back your wife from now being able to get this great job that is market centric you have to go to LA for. And I think that's part of being sacrificial love. It's hard for us to grasp that, I think, in this modern day culture.
A lot of us feel like we do. I mean, yo, listen, bro, I told you about this young girl that I've been seeing. There are women who I know would be so jealous of the version of me that she's getting because it's very sacrificial for where I am right now.
Yeah.
Like the time that I could be spending doing other things. Well, I mean, it's not the same now, but it's like when I was really putting an effort forth, yo, bro, it was like sacrificing time. It was, you know, time that I could have been with my family, time that I could have been putting into music, working out, doing whatever I'm trying to do. But it was like I always made myself accessible and available to her. And that's just not something I'm used to doing. That's a sacrifice for me. I don't think she would ever see it like that.
No, I think people don't look at sacrifices the same way you do. The person giving the $50 probably doesn't feel the loss of the $50 the way the person who's receiving the $50 may receive the gain of the $50.
Oh, that's not the well. Yeah, that can
case,
happen.
Yeah, but
yes, it can happen.
But you're going a step further. What are you trying to say?
Well, I'm saying like there are times when almost kind of like I'm giving you out of a reserve that I really don't have. That $50 is like I really could have used that $50, but
yes,
I know you needed it more than I do, so I'm happy to go.
Robbery.
Right, I thought it not robbery. To bless you with this 50 this week, even though I may not be able to use it for what I wanted it for.
Absolutely, and that's the point I'm making. That 50 is not like I got 50 million in the bank and I got 5,000 on me walking around like Usher and Floyd Mayweather with the knot in the pocket. 50 ain't nothing. I'm talking about this is probably my last $50 until next week, and I know you need it more than me, so here. But in this case, we're talking about it's not just about money. It could include it, but it's not just about money.
Yeah, it was money and time.
Time, energy.
Yeah, all of that.
Career trade-offs, opportunity costs, all of the weight that goes with decisions that we make every day. And if we're by ourselves, those decisions can be difficult and maybe not as arduous, but they still mean so much more when you make them for another person.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
They mean so much more when you make them for another person, because that person can turn around, in my example, get to LA and be like, yo, look, man, it's been a good ride.
It's been real, but
it's a good ride. But these LA dudes.
I'm out here with all of these boys coming from the Lakers
Staples Arena.
Court side at the Staples Center. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm out in Calabasas every weekend.
Yeah, it's
driving up to PCH with my wind blowing in the hair out the Ferrari. Hey, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a good ride.
Yeah, your homegirl Courtney Love talked about Malibu. You know what I mean? Like hitting Malibu. So I get it. But just to bring it back, what the challenge seems to be is that this culture doesn't promote that. And I think we've talked about this before. When you live in a culture where you can personalize your technological instruments and devices, whether it's your TV, your iPad, your MacBook, anything, and that you own can be personalized by you and for you, you take that same calculus, you take that same mindset, then you apply it to relationships.
Yeah. And
a person is not a thing to be customized. A person is not a thing to be objectified. A person is not a thing to be upgraded or enhanced.
Well, see, now this gets slippery, because now we got to talk about how does a person not view someone that way and still think about their own needs being met?
Well, I think when Shaman Derek was talking was about evolution. That is a nuanced term, because part of evolution is enhancement in the sense of, okay, maybe you got with somebody, and I've heard women talk about this. You have the book Fair Play out there. He wasn't cleaning or helping out around the house. You start to share your needs. You maybe go through the Fair Play book together. He realizes, damn, you've been carrying a lot of weight around here. Let me start doing my thing. Let me start cleaning the dishes. Let me start doing the laundry. Let's take responsibility for the things in the home that you'll do and I'll do. That way we make sure that we're carrying this load and we're being equitable. That's the key word, equitable. I think that's then meeting your needs. And that is somewhat of a change, obviously. That is evolution. But you're saying that what happens when you say, okay, it's not about enhancements. It's not about objectification. It's not about the upgrade. But if you don't do those things, my needs don't get met.
And I'll be unhappy, and I'll be thinking about cheating, or I'll, you know what I mean?
Or I'll rolling off.
Yeah. So yeah, what's the middle ground with something like that?
I think the middle ground is everyone has needs that need to be met. And I do believe you have to be challenged sometimes to meet those needs. You have to be challenged to evolve. But I don't think it has to be in the terms of being upgraded or enhanced or objectification. Of course, I use the term enhanced in the concept or the example I gave of fair play. But I do think that in general, that's not what we're referring to. You don't want a black iPod, you go get a white iPod. 20 years ago, obviously, no one's really rocking iPods. But the same thing with a MacBook or a new iPhone, right? You have different colors. I want the yellow one, I want the red back. That's not the type of change or upgrade we're talking about. Because it's not that instant with the human being. It's not that instant. You're not going to a store and making a selection. This is someone's soul. This is someone's entire existence. And then 3, we also know that human progress happens best in increments.
Over time, yeah.
Over time. You are going to get some windfalls, but the most sustainable type of human progress happens in increments over time.
Slow and steady always wins the race.
So you can have your needs met. It's just going to have to be over time working with somebody, and they have to be challenged and you have to be challenged about how to evolve together so that needs are met and the relationship remains a vehicle that helps and satisfies everyone. And then also we keep going to this term, this V term, the larger vision. But it's gonna take time. I think that's the thing about relationships. It's not going to be an instant. I always give the analogy of speedboat changes versus cruise boat changes. So rather speedboat turns versus cruise boat turns. Yeah. When you're in a speedboat, when you're younger in life, typically for a lot of people, you're not burdened with life. So you can make speedboat turns. When a speedboat wants to turn, the turn is, exactly. Yeah. Well, we're going left, we're going right. You know what I mean? You can just move through that. If you're down in Miami, speedboat, it's fun. A cruise ship is fun too, but a cruise ship, think about it, you're laboring. Yeah. Sometimes a turn to get back to where it was, I've seen this when people fall off the boat in a cruise boat, it takes 45 minutes to get back to that place. It's longer, it's tougher, but at least I'll say this, you're doing that turn with community. A cruise boat has multiple people on it, right? So you're doing that in community. It's a richer, more fruitful experience. Also, you can go longer in a cruise boat than you can in a speedboat. You get caught out in some of them winds in the Atlantic in a speedboat and you're finished. A cruise boat can weather some storms.
I can go long wherever you put me, speedboat or cruise boat.
Yeah, all right. Well, yeah, no problem. Bringing in other parts of the analogy. Well, I had a submarine, dude. I got some Black Ops government stuff. I don't know if y'all know, we built an underwater base. And we got something settling for y'all right now, Illuminati style. Yeah, but no, I mean, seriously, like these are the things that people have to realize. It's slow, but it's slow. And if the person's being honest about where they're at and you're being honest, then the progress is slow but purposeful.
And it's a better outcome. Like you said, there's more sustainability to it. And like you said, it contributes to the bigger V, the big vision.
Yeah, exactly. So I think just wrapping up, man, this whole idea of companionship, I just want to double down. It's not a negative thing.
Yeah, not at all.
I think there's going to be times in your life where you're just craving companionship.
Like me. Hi, ladies. I am single.
Yes, he is.
I'm just kidding.
You're not single?
Oh, no, I'm not kidding about that, but I'm just kidding about putting myself out there. But I do love companionship. I think it's great. Yeah. I do love relationship too. I just feel like for me, there's a larger requirement to feel like love is going to be the motivating factor there.
Yes. I think for me, I also want to normalize companionship, even though I'm in a long-term relationship. It's just that companionship may be what you need at a given point in time, because to tell someone, I want to be with you, I want to have a relationship with you, then they do the relationship thing with you, and then all you're doing is following the companionship protocol. Mm-hmm. That is very hurtful. It's very damaging. Not only to you, to the other person, and even maybe to the future them, the future person they can become, because you're not really following the relationship model, because you're not interested in sacrificing, you're not interested in challenging yourself, you're not interested in throwing down the gauntlet within your soul to get to, a better outcome, to find the treasure. But to get to the treasure in your soul, you got to go through this gauntlet, right? The challenge has been laid down, and you have to go and rescue yourself sometimes from places within yourself that you didn't realize were as dark as they may be. So I just challenge people, understand companionship's okay, but ultimately relationship is great. They have great outcomes. I always tell people marriage is one of the greatest to this day, wealth vehicles in the world, whether you're talking about wealth as far as health, being people living longer, they're healthier, they're greater. There's some data to say that men often benefit more than women. We can get into that some other time when we have a woman colleague to help us talk about women's needs and bodies and life perspectives. But there definitely is a lot of data that marriage does help and elevate. And relationships as well, long-term relationships. So we just challenge people to be thoughtful about what you actually want. When you come across, a shaman Derek, think about what they're saying. Don't just go through that like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Think about.
I did that at first.
Yeah, well, because people are just thinking like, I think we're getting to an age now where everyone feels like everything is being labeled, everything is being categorized. Everyone has a nice, neat little box where they can put how we feel and how we think and how we emote into. I understand that. But at the end of the day, there is a difference between the kind of relationships we are seeing because people are forming different types of interactions and connections with each other that necessitate that type of dialogue that Shaman Derek's offering to everybody.
Right.
That's just my challenge to everyone. Really think about when you say, I want to be with you, what are you willing to sacrifice?
How are you willing to evolve?
Yeah, to be with that person.
Right.
So that's it for today. Thanks for listening and watching. Again, check us out. Instagram, TikTok. We're even on Facebook at Love God, Love Sex Pod. Also YouTube. And if you haven't, come join our email list. Lots of free content and goodies. We have a free ebook on dating and free ebook on being dating to forever. It's all about, living and thriving for the long term in your personal relationship. And we have a free ebook about emotional intimacy, 5 key listening techniques that foster and create emotional intimacy between you and your partner, even a friend or a confidant. It's just really important that you really sharpen your listening skills. It's going to be one of the most critical skills you have in your personal, interpersonal, and professional life. And we're also going to have some other goodies coming your way as well. So the email list will just be a great way to stay in contact and stay connected. This is Heath Maxwell.
What up, everybody? This is Jamie signing off.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Till next time.
Peace.
Take care.